Come check out this 1915 home that we just rebuilt. Today we're going to be looking at one of our projects that we recently finished. Some of the amazing things about this project, as you'll see inside, some of the finished carpentry features. The entire house was designed around a central courtyard. You'll see like the care that they put into the design and just the value that is in the finished product of having a great design build team. This house, the original, was over a 100-year-old home and burned down. This is a rebuild. They took great care to try and bring some of the original features, just kind of the feel of that original home. I can't wait to show you guys around. Follow me. Hi, Kim.
We're like cleaning.
Oh, don't bother too much. I mean, it's like
We're cleaning.
Have you guys used this much?
Yeah.
Is it cool?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's really, and I mean, when the weather is nice, it's not too hot and not too cold. Like Jeremy opens the whole thing out and pulls a gear.
I'm curious on some of the things that I know you guys tried to save, like the glass over the office. I'm trying to remember, was the front door glass original?
So originally it was like kind of a cheap main door, and then these were the originals in the side, in the side lights. And our window guy, Miles, who did all the weighted windows from like the early 1900s.
Yeah.
He threw such a fit because he's like, I'm not a door guy, I'm a window guy. But we talked him into building us. So he totally built this whole thing by hand.
Yeah.
And pieced in all the glass from the original. Those are the most valuable windows in our old house. That's the oldest Preta glass.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. I felt like, too, like the other Michael, you know, he was out here filming when we were grading and pouring concrete and all that. So it's like, that's going to be really fun to even see it get to this point, because it went from like a weed-covered lot to this beautiful home. Yeah. So I know it's like, well, it's not 100%, but it's like way different than when we all first met here, walking through the mud, you know? So it's like,
it's very different.
It's very different. It's a home. I think one of the cool things about this project too is it shows the value of picking the right design team and build team, right? And so like that was what was a lot of fun for me in building this, is Daniel's involvement, Jennifer's involvement, and everybody caring so much about the project. And then that's how the details show as they do, you know?
I agree. So Daniel is our friend who just helped us with interior design in his spare time, and Jen was our architect. That's fun to have friends come in and say, this is a totally new house, but like the soul of the old house is here.
Yeah.
Like, there are all these like whispers and echoes.
Class.
Once stood here, which is, you know,
Totally.
very, very cool. Yeah. So like this space, she also really wanted us to open up. We kept moving this. Do you remember, like a little further and a little further?
Yes.
And then we decided we wanted it like another 6 inches. And she was like, no, they're gonna ruin it.
Well, you don't often hear people say, I want it to feel tight and cozy.
We spent so much time like walking this space and kind of wanting then the kitchen to be a little bit separate. And what that's done is this has been what we thought, which is the most relaxed, like everybody plops here.
Yeah.
But you have enough separation in the kitchen. I mean, there was so much intentionality.
Yeah, that's what we want to feature on this.
This was half of these were saved from the firefighters.
Oh, wow.
So if you look closely, some of them have like water damage. But this photo wall, it was very similar to this. The fire really like took out the top level, and we thought we'd just be able to rebuild.
Yeah.
I think we were in conversation with you when we're like, we're just gonna rebuild the original.
That's when I think Charlie first mentioned it. He's like, what do you think? And then at that point, the remediation
builders, yes,
company had said,
absolutely
nope,
not.
It's done.
And they got a couple of engineers in there, and they're like, the structural damage is too significant. There's no way you can rebuild this home. It has to go to the ground.
Yeah. Tell me about the design process, because I know you guys went through interviewing architects, and there was somebody here that I met that kind of you were filtering them.
Was it Luis?
Yes.
I found out that he's like a top architect for the county of San Diego, and he couldn't take on the project. He interviewed our top choices and then agreed with us about Jen, you know.
Yeah.
You're not gonna have a 20-minute conversation with Jen. You gotta like carve out time because she's an Enneagram 5 who does her research.
How long did that design take though? Because she's such a stickler for detail.
I know it ran like 2 or 3 months late.
Yeah, and the design intentionality is really the thing that I always come back to this. You know, all the time and hard work. I always tell people, spend the time in the design because it's worth it in the long run. Because now that it's behind you, you're like, I'm glad we did it, right?
Absolutely.
You guys have the loss of your home. You have now this unexpected project that's been just thrust in your laps and you have to hurry up and design. Then you have...
We weren't thinking about the day when we would build a house.
Right.
Or a thing.
Well, that's the crazy thing about a project that you weren't planning is you have to really quickly ramp up. And so you have to like find a new place to live. You're homeless essentially when it first happens. Were you hotels? Were you...
Hotel. A neighbor had taken the dogs.
You guys moved in March of 24, right? Wow. Just knowing that like what you guys go through on some level, every remodel project feels like that, even the voluntary ones. It's like you don't know what you're asking for. Oh, wow.
We're like, we've had 2 meetings with you and we wanted confident people who would listen to us but hold their own and be realistic with us.
Yeah.
And that was something, Luke, we really appreciate about you is you managed our expectations. You were like, this is gonna go longer and it's gonna be more expensive than you think it will be. And you kept saying, we can do this. This is a cool project. If you do all the detail, like those are really expensive details. And I didn't want to hear that, but we needed to hear that because we did want the spirit of the old home, which is tons of craftsman detail.
Was this one of the pictures that was saved?
So yeah, so one of our closest friends, they live in Oakland. She's an artist. This is a painting that was in the original house during the fire, and the firefighters grabbed it.
That is super cool too. It's like zero transition between the two materials, just like that seamless. That's more of how like the original homes did it. So, and it's kind of the old school hexagon tile. We're trying to compile as much of what we learn in every project because we're always learning and go, hey, here's what we keep hearing. Here's the feedback. Here's everybody in your shoes, just like you.
So I really was grateful that up front, you were very clear about some things. Like it could cost this much. Well, it could cost this much. Choose this and this. We felt great about everyone who worked on the house.
Well, I think some things went well for you too. Like you used your paver guy and we all had the same goal. Right. So however we got there, it was less important of who got to solve the problem. It was just that it got solved. That's one of the things about my business is we want to bring that emotional intelligence to an industry that's notoriously full of hotheads. Anyways, that's what we're trying to connect with is bring a lot more of that, the human side of it, the emotional connection to it. And then it shows through in the project.
It does.
And the workers were so fabulous.
A number of different folks so Jen and Daniel in particular spoke to this being the cleanest job site they'd ever seen.
Oh, wow.
Like physically clean.
So yeah. No, like people, they cleaned up at the end of the day, like blown away, and not just from the materials, but she's like, so many job sites are just like, soda bottles or water bottles just kind of strewn about because no one's living there.
Yeah.
But I think my assumption would be like, hey, people are envisioning this as their home. So when they show up, even though they're not living here, like seeing trash everywhere, like not a great feeling.
Yeah.
So they were struck, and I wouldn't have been able to say, I haven't walked a lot of job sites, I don't have a comparison.
Right.
But for them just to out loud say, this is the cleanest job site I've seen.
Awesome.
So just as a kudos to your team.
We try and treat it like your home from day one.
Right.
Even if there's not a house here, it's still your house. It's great to know our team is living that culture, and it's great to hear
the whole deal, which is like, that's a harder thing to rein in sometimes with like that you work with. So it was the same thing across the board.
Trent and Joe.
Yes.